Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are back in the dining room because it is still raining outside. So, um, let's get right into it. This is one of the more interesting videos that I'm super excited to make. We are doing a Golden State Warriors 2020 offseason preview. And like I said, this is very interesting, and let's get right into it. The coach, Steve Kerr, one of the best in the NBA. He's not going anywhere. Now we talk about the draft, and this is where it gets really, really interesting. The Warriors were lucky enough in the lottery to stay in the top three. They got the second overall pick, and there are a lot of directions I could see them going with this pick. It has been rumored that they want Anthony Edwards, and if he's available, I definitely think they should take this guy. I think that he's a very good player. He fits in well with their team as a sixth man, and he's definitely a developmental piece for their future. They've said that they want to be like the Spurs, where they can win championships for 3 decades in a row, pretty much, and if they have a guy like Anthony Edwards as well as a top pick in the draft next year from the Timberwolves, I think that'll probably be around the 7th or 8th pick most likely. And they could really just start building a dynasty, and even more of a dynasty than they have now. Something more similar to the Spurs, where they win with one core, and then that core develops a new core, and then that core wins, and so on, and it's just a chain. The Warriors have said that they want to be that franchise, and this is a chance for them to do so. If Edwards isn't there, they could definitely go with James Wiseman or Onyeka Okongwu. However, if Okongwu is their guy, I think that they should trade down and get another asset, because I'm not too worried about him going at the top of the draft to any other team besides the Warriors, just because if a team is going to be looking at taking a big man, every other team should be drafting off potential, because the Warriors are the only real contender that is picking in the lottery, or the early lottery at least. Obviously the Celtics, but they're picking at 14, which is a lot different from picking at 2. So they're much more likely to go with the high potential guy in James Wiseman. And so if the Warriors want Okongwu, they should trade down. Otherwise, if they want to take Wiseman, that works too. Okongwu is more if you want a guy who has future potential to grow into a bit more of a 4. He's definitely a better... Well, neither of these two guys is much of a passer right now, but I think Okongwu has more potential. He's just got a lot of Bam Adebayo in him, and I think he's a similar player to that. He's very athletic, good in the post. He's got better defensive instincts than Wiseman does right now, and I think that he might not have the exciting athleticism, but he's more of a skilled player than Wiseman, and I think that he has more potential as an outside shooter than Wiseman does. So there's definitely a case that could be made that they should take Okongwu, but like I said, they should trade down if that's what they want to do. So 3 things they could do if they want to make their pick are Edwards and Wiseman. If Edwards is there, take Edwards. Wiseman should be there, so they'll have the option to take him. And Okongwu, if they want to draft him, trade down, like I said. Otherwise, they could definitely trade this pick. Last night, I was trying to think of a few possibilities when I was preparing for this video. One that I really like is Marcus Smart in the 14th pick. That might be a bit of a steal for the Celtics. I'm not sure that Marcus Smart in 14 should be enough for them to trade all the way up to 2. However, I just really like Marcus Smart's fit with the Warriors as a defensive stopper. That way Clay can take a break off of guarding the best player on the other team, and they can have smart matchup on him, whoever that may be. And they also would be getting the 14th pick, which is a pick they could use on maybe like a Precious Achua to play the 5 for them, or else they could spend that pick on a guard of some kind that they could develop off the bench. I think that would be a good falling spot for Cole Anthony because of all the shooters they have. They could space the floor well around him. So if the Warriors were to trade for Marcus Smart in 14, I think that could be a doable trade. Maybe they would want the Celtics to throw in another one of their late first round picks, 26 or 29, I believe, are the other two the Celtics have. So that could be interesting for sure. Steven Adams was another idea I have. I think they could get that trade done with their trade exception, trade for Steven Adams and Darius Bazley or something like that for the second pick. Maybe the Thunder don't want to give up Bazley, so they give up, I think they have like the 25th pick and Terrence Ferguson along with Steven Adams for the second pick. That once again may not be getting the kind of value the Warriors want, but Adams can come in and be a starting 5 for them. He's a above average starter at that position. So that is another possibility. Another one could be a straight up swap of John Collins for the second pick, although I'm not sure the Hawks would want to do that because the player they want in this draft is Edwards, and I think that the Timberwolves definitely have a chance to draft him, and the Hawks also really like Collins. So I'm not even sure if they had a perfect guy for them at number 2, if they would want to make that trade, because they like Collins and they see him as a very good piece alongside Trae Young building for the future. Another idea could be like the second pick for Josh Richardson and Matisse Thybulle or Shake Milton. The Sixers would do it to get another young player, probably LaMelo, I think, who could be an interesting fit at the 1. Sorry about that. At the 1 alongside, and with Simmons playing at the 4, Embiid at the 5. LaMelo's got lots of good players who he can dish the ball to, although the problem would be that team's spacing would just get even worse with trading away Shake or Thybulle, who are both, well, Shake's an above average shooter, Thybulle is a capable shooter, and Richardson is also a pretty average shooter. But that's another option. Another one I have is Kelly Oubre in the 10th pick. I think Oubre could be a bit of an odd man out in Phoenix because of the steps forward Mikal Bridges took in the bubble. They might view him as the perfect 5th starter alongside at the 3 spot alongside Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton due to his ability as a 3-and-D wing and one of the best defenders in the entire NBA. So they might not have a need for Oubre anymore. They could trade him in the 10th pick to move up to the 2nd pick, where they could take LaMelo to be their point guard of the future. I definitely think that could be interesting, pairing him with Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton gives them a very promising young core moving into the future. Otherwise, the Warriors could trade down, give up the 2nd pick for a lower pick and an asset. So like the 2nd pick for the 6th pick and Kevin Huerter or DeAndre Hunter from the Hawks, where they could take like Tyrese Halliburton or Okongwu or a player like that. Maybe Isaac Okoro could be another option for them at 6. At 7, the Pistons have the 7th pick, and they could trade that and Luke Kennard to get up and take LaMelo. Going back to the Hawks, the only way they would probably give up the 6th pick and one of their promising young wings is if Edwards fell to 2, which might not happen. I think the Timberwolves maybe should take LaMelo Ball. I'll talk about my mock draft soon and what I think every team should do, but I think that the Hawks might not be a great option because they probably don't want to trade up for the second pick if Edwards is not there. So, like maybe the seventh pick and Luke Kennard from the Pistons could get them the second pick. In Detroit, they would obviously do that because they like LaMelo a lot. And right there, the Warriors could take a Kunwu or Tyrese Halliburton, similar to what they could do at 6. Otherwise, the 8th pick and Mitchell Robinson from the Knicks is another option. So I think the Knicks should do that if the Warriors would accept it. I think Mitchell Robinson is very overrated and overvalued by Knicks fans. Obviously, he's a decent young starting center, but that's the least valuable position in the NBA, and he's shown a lot of problems on offense and also gets in foul trouble due to his need to contest every single shot. He also gives up a lot of offensive rebounds because he contests every shot, and the guy he was supposed to be guarding has a clear lane at grabbing an offensive board. So I think Mitch is a little overrated. So if the Warriors would take him in the 8th pick for the second pick, the Knicks should do it guaranteed. And quite honestly, I think the Warriors could ask for a bit more. The last trade option I thought of for the second pick would be Drew Holiday. I think that they would have to throw in Wiggins, though, in order to get it done, and I'm not sure that the Pelicans would want to take on Wiggins because he has a lot of his game clashes a lot with Brandon Ingram's, and I'm not sure that they would want to add another forward who's going to be looking to take a lot of shots to that roster just because it could stunt the growth of Ingram and Williamson. Otherwise, if they don't want to trade the second pick, they could still use that Andre Iguodala trade exception to get someone like Kelly Olynyk or Robert Covington maybe. Rudy Gay has been a name thrown in there a lot. All of those guys could be decent forward or in Olynyk's case center options for the Warriors off the bench. Olynyk's defense isn't great, but he would bring a level of shooting that the Warriors have not had in a center in their entire dynastic run. Covington is a good 3-and-D guy. Rudy Gay can get you some buckets off the bench. I would say Covington could be traded because he's been playing poorly and fallen out of favor with D'Antoni with the Rockets, and maybe he's not even available to be traded, and I'm wrong about that, but it's the Rockets, and they've been willing to make trades of crazy trades over and over again the past couple of years. So who knows what'll happen there. For free agency, this team has no outgoing players, but I think some targets could be like Myers Leonard as a spacing center, Jay Crowder as a solid role player who could come off the bench and kind of play a similar Draymond Green type role off the bench for them. Another one could be Jeff Green as another option for a bench forward. So their potential rotation, this rotation I made is assuming they draft James Wiseman and sign someone like Jay Crowder. Steph Curry would play point guard, Klay Thompson at the 2, the Splash Bros, best backcourt in the NBA when they're healthy. Wiggins at the 3, Draymond Green at the 4, and then Wiseman at the 5. With Kevon Looney, Jordan Poole, Jay Crowder, and Marquise Chris I have as the bench. Obviously, that's a pretty weak bench, but they don't have a lot of depth because of the amount of money they're paying their top 4 guys. I think I read something where they called them the $130 million core because that's what their 4 contracts add up to. And if they took Edwards instead of Wiseman, then Looney would start and Edwards would be the 6th man. That's about the only difference. If they make a trade, Marcus Smart could slot in as the 6th man. Yeah, there's a lot of things that could happen with this team. It's kind of hard to predict their rotation, but I think that they are in the top tier in the West when healthy. I think that they slot in right there with the LA teams and Denver and Utah as a top 5 team in the West. Um, and could this pick start a dynasty? I think it could. I definitely think that if Edwards is put in a situation where he can develop, he can become a top 20 player in the NBA. Wiseman, I'm not so high on just because of his position, and he doesn't seem to have a skill like Jokic has his passing, Towns has his shooting, Embiid has his back to the basket game. I haven't seen that kind of skill from Wiseman, and I think he could just become a Rudy Gobert as his ceiling, where he's like Wiseman's ceiling is Rudy Gobert, floor is Willie Cauley-Stein type player, where if he's at his ceiling, he's really good. He's maybe an all-star level player, but he gets put off the court sometimes in playoff games because of his inability to do anything on offense other than catch lobs and dunk. And on defense, I'm not sure. We'll see how his perimeter defense adjusts, but I just don't know that he's a player capable of making the kind of dynastic run that the Warriors want. But yeah, I definitely think that this team's in a great spot moving forward. If I had to make a pick for the championship next year, I think that this team is going to be right there. I'm not quite ready for that because we haven't seen any of the draft or free agency and stuff, but I think that this team is really, really good. Curry's a top 5 player, Clay's top 15, and Draymond, if he can step back up his game, play like he did when he was motivated. Yeah, this team could be something special, and I just love basketball, and I'm excited to see what ends up happening with this team because there's a lot of directions they could go in, and obviously their goal is to win a championship, and we'll see how that goes for them. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I've got for you, and I will see you again very soon.